This episode focused primarily on just the background and characterization of many of the characters, good and bad, and introduced us to the newest member of Night Raid. Akame ga Kill, Episode 12, Kill the Newcomers. The newest member of Night Raid is definitely interesting. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and Night Raid members of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim. I'm here to bring you another review on the excellent and comedy-filled and touching and heartwarming and gory and grisly and grimy and action-filled tale that is Akame ga Kill. Now, our last episode, of course, saw just the Mad Doctor being, really winding up with him and his kind of weird creations attacking Night Raid, and ultimately everything coming full circle by the end of that fairly self-contained episode, and with the help of Susanoo, which we find out is the newest member of Night Raid, but is also a Tegu, is a living Tegu, so it's kind of like a cyborg almost, I guess. I don't know. It's like a human, but it's not a human, So anyway, things wound up ending off with the good doctor being defeated, and of course Night Raid still being intact, and now having two new members, of which we're introduced to the second one, of course, very early on in this episode. So that is how things left off. That is how things pick up. They're actually going and scouting out a different area because now they need a new base, and they're all riding on and flying the huge danger beast, the kind of manta ray looking thing, and having a good time. Most of them are anyway, flying around. They wind up finding this area that Negenda says is inhabited with some pretty high level danger beasts, and it reminds me of almost like a video game, because she says, okay, and we're going to hang out here for a while until the Revolutionary Army so they can kind of scout us a better location closer to the capital, and we're basically just going to chill out here and level up, is what she says, so go on missions, go on raids, kill some of these things, right? So anyway, they wind up talking about Susanoo, and everybody's asking about what it can do, this and that. Turns out that this Tegu was basically sleeping from it was like dormant, and it wound up awakening when Negenda came close to it, and it says and he says that Negenda reminds him of his former master. And then we find out a couple of lines later that his former master was actually a guy, right? So everybody in Night Raid's giving Negenda shit about, oh, it looked like a dude. Dude looks like a lady, or vice versa, lady looks like a dude. But anyway, we wind up seeing that this Susanoo is not just this like fighting killing machine, that it was basically like this companion Tegu bot, whatever you want to call it, little Miss Susie Homemaker. This thing can cook, can clean. Dude's chopping down trees, building them a whole nice like huge log cabin to live in, like a nice like several thousand square foot log cabin, right? I need me a Susanoo right away, We're introduced then to the other character, and although this episode in the action department was a little bit on the slow end, it was a nice bridge episode, or a nice developing story episode to kind of develop some of the camaraderie and develop some of the team itself, and to bring in, of course, these new members. So the other new member is this nice, kind of cute little chick, and her name is Chelsea, and she wears this little schoolgirl outfit, and we find out that her, number one, she's one of those kind of straightforward, kind of, I wouldn't say cocky, but she's one of those people that doesn't have a filter on her mouth. She kind of just says what she thinks, and she immediately kind of starts digging into the team as far as getting off on the wrong foot with Mine. At one point, there's a comical thing where she talks about how she's flat-chested and has no tits, but even though she's not exactly, she's more like the hammer of the toolbox as far as when she comes out with things. A lot of the things that she says are true. She's in there to help them, but she's also trying to assess the team's strength and see where their weaknesses are. We find out that her power is that she can actually, her Tegu is that she can actually, she's like a master of disguise. She can change into anything. Now, I don't think she takes on the powers of things that she can change into, but she can change into anything, and obviously disguising that physical presence can help in infiltration, espionage, spy type stuff, gathering information, getting out of sticky situations. Really, the sky's the limit, so let's put it that way. But she winds up getting off on the wrong foot, especially with Mine, because she sits down and basically says her assessment of things is, listen, you guys are strong, but strength isn't going to get you there. Bullet and Shelly, who you lost, they obviously weren't good assassins. And although I felt kind of angry that they were talking shit about the deceased, she's telling the truth. if they were better at what they did, and if things were set up better, and I understand that they were extenuating circumstances, but things could have shaken out differently, is her point, if they had been better assassins. And that's the bottom line, okay? When somebody winds up going on a mission and does not come back, it was because, even if they got ambushed or everything else, if they're not strong enough, smart enough, quick enough, whatever, to get out of that situation, and you wind up dying or being captured, guess what? It's a failure. And whether it's directly your fault or not, it's still a failure. Failure is a failure, and that's where her straightforward and to the point type of thing comes from. So we also wind up seeing a great, because then Mine's pissed off, so she goes and basically talks with Tatsumi and talks with talks with Lubbock, the only two guys on the team now, other than this Susanoo, which is, I don't even know, it's like kind of like a robot to me, or a cyborg. That's what it reminds me of. But anyway, she goes and talks them into going and trying to pull a prank on Chelsea, and we get. So it winds up being that Tatsumi gets recruited to do this because he has the invisibility power with the Incursio armor, and he's going to go sneak down by her when she's taking a bath, and we see this great shot of her looking really good and naked, with, of course, just the nips being covered up by some convenient steam coming out of the bath that she's in. And so he's going to sneak up on her, and he's going to go and drop a bucket over her head, and scare the shit out of her, that type of thing. Teach her a lesson, right? As he goes and creeps around and gets up on her, all of a sudden he finds out that it's Susanoo standing there butt naked, And he's apologizing. And then sure as shit, it's Chelsea just fucking with him. And what you wind up saying is that, listen, Incursio may disguise you physically from being seen by the eye, but it doesn't disguise your presence, doesn't hide your presence, and then also, of course, sound. People can hear things that are very perceptive. So it was actually really just more of a kind of like, hey, here's a tip going into future battles, So I enjoyed that part of it. We also wound up getting a bit of humanization for the characters of Seryu, and then of course Esdeath herself. And we know that General Esdeath is a little bit different, let's put it that way, with things, but we can see that she's human. She still misses Tatsumi and thinks that he's the only one in the world for her, and really wants him really badly, it seems like. And we wind up having this very touching moment where Seryu is sitting there with Koro, and she just kind of starts breaking down and crying, right? Because she was the doctor was obviously the crazy doctor, Dr. Stylish, was also the one that did all the modifications to her and everything, and she did have like a bond with him, right? And what this goes to show you is that even though it's not always black and white, it's not always good and bad, technically Night Raid would be considered the bad. They're the rebels. They're the ones fighting against the tyranny and everything else. And although the tyranny is bad and everything else, there are certain characters that you can see they're not all bad, they're not all good. And like Seryu, for instance, she just was, I think, just misguided in her sense of justice by kind of surrounding herself with the wrong people. But there was a very touching moment where she breaks down and cries, and Esdeath actually kind of starts like nuzzling her and holding her in her arms. And I thought the exchange at first was a little bit cheesy, but then as I saw it going on, I thought about it more and more, and it's making you, as the viewer, care more about these characters, so they don't feel like they're just evil, like they're just these throwaway characters, like it's just the person that we got to fight against in this arc, So I thought it was very, very cool, and I thought, again, it showed the humanization, or the human side of these actual characters, and that they actually have a human side. They're not just these cold-blooded killing machines, So for the most part, that was the episode in a nutshell. To wrap it up, we wind up seeing and kind of dangling the carrot for the next episode or the next episodes to come. There's some people that are mining underground, and there's some sort of crazy looking like earth beasts, I guess, danger beasts that are like grabbing them and eating them and stuff. And then we see at the end of the episode, as the camera kind of pans out, that there's this character that can control them, or that obviously can summon them, or maybe that's part of his power. Looks like a guy. And that's kind of how we're left dangling for the next episode. So definitely very good stuff. Again, like I said, just because it doesn't have a ton of action in it, it doesn't make it a bad episode. This is very much a kind of a bridge episode that sort of sets up and again sort of builds the characters, builds the background. Showed Night Raid where their flaws and weaknesses are, how they could get better and come together for future things. The action in the actual episode was pretty much Leone and Tatsumi in his Incursio armor, and basically just taking out tons of high-level danger beasts. And Agenda winds up telling them by the end that they've leveled up quite nicely. So again, kind of felt like some grinding in an RPG or an MMO type of video game. So my episode question for you though: brothers and sisters, is what are your thoughts on Chelsea? Number one, what are your thoughts on Chelsea? Just, do you like her? Do you hate her? Just initial impressions. And then also, do you think that Chelsea went too far in not having a filter on her mouth and some of the things that she said, speaking ill of the dead, the comrades that they had that fell in battle? Let me know what your answer is to those questions in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation. I would urge you to follow me on Facebook and Twitter and check out my other channels. But as always, thanks for watching.